any products that doesn't meet Crunchyroll's internal sales expectations will be flagged and delisted because they want to focus on fast-selling products from well-known IPs. Okay. I didn't really think that this would be what I would still be talking about in the year 2026. Hey guys, this is Osoweeb. I'm sorry. I've stripped it down, but this is at least better presentation than what's been for the past couple months. But that's besides the point for especially the folks who don't understand what's the situation, who's only read the title, and who's just jumped in. This news broke yesterday by the great MangaAlerts, and I'm taking this from their Blue Sky page, is I guess Crunchyroll is rolling out a new policy called slow sellers for the Crunchyroll Store, which means that any products that doesn't meet Crunchyroll's internal sales expectations will be flagged and delisted because they want to focus on fast-selling products from well-known IPs. This policy is absolutely dumb and stupid. The original thread will be linked down below. I will link to the Blue Sky page, as you would not need an account to be seeing this thread, as compared to on their X page. But let's kind of walk back here, and I'll give you the briefest of brief recap on the situation. Before I start with the context, on screen will be the timestamp to skip to get the meat of the story. Is that Crunchyroll LLC and or a subsidiary of Sony Group and Pictures and Sony Music is the world's largest international distributor of anime outside of Japan. Against the likes of Netflix, Disney Plus, and fighting over the distribution and merchandising of Japanese anime titles. Few notable entries that comes to mind out of the recent years is My Hero Academia that wrapped up this past year. Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, and this is the big company that has been going after essentially global domination over the anime industry, all in an effort to how you get like your figurines, your manga, your home video, and where you're watching your shows. All in the end of the day to boost shareholder profit and meeting the expectations of their parent company, Sony. Crunchyroll was started out as a piracy service back in the early 2000s. Later, soon after, they went legit through venture capital money and money from AT&T and then being acquired with their internet media-based branch of the company, and then being folded into Otter Media with the likes of Fullscreen and Rooster Teeth and Machinima, all on the same roof under AT&T when they were merged with Warner Brothers. In the mid-2010s, Crunchyroll and Funimation got into a partnership, and with that and a bunch of like internal stuff with Crunchyroll's company, Otter Media, they're able to have their service called Verve, and Crunchyroll Funimation started sharing titles between the two services. Funimation focusing on more dubbing and localization of shows, while Crunchyroll focused on subtitle simulcast releases coming out of Japan. Although Funimation would also be experimenting with simulcasting dubs as a result of their partnership with Adult Swim, with Space Dandy, and then creating that whole industry of what we now know as simul-dubbing and or dubs that kind of come out around the same time as the subtitled Japanese release. Following the subsequent debts that AT&T accrued throughout the years and Time Warner, AT&T would split Warner Brothers off and also sell all their digital media companies, which included Crunchyroll. Around the same time, Sony bought out Funimation. And Funimation had deals with other anime companies, and Sony saw that, and then they bought up those international anime companies. International anime companies like Manga Entertainment in the UK and Madman Entertainment in Australia, and then other companies within Europe. And with Crunchyroll also having acquired Viz Media's branch within Europe and pulling them into Crunchyroll. That's where, if you live in Europe, you have Crunchyroll manga. That's where that comes. As Sony buys out, having bought those international anime companies and Funimation, they would then form Funimation Global Group, and Sony with Funimation Global Groups purchases Crunchyroll and then folds them into Funimation Global Group, rebranding themselves into Crunchyroll LLC. Subsequently, Crunchyroll would then buy out the semi-best distributor for Japanese anime, manga, figurines, and home video, Right Stuff, and then Right Stuff Entertainment. Right Stuff owning the label Nozomi, and them around the same time also trying to work out Kickstarter to bring a revival to Dirty Pair, and then their new dub of it. That then later Crunchyroll will, after many years, finally fulfilled the backers of that project, buys out Right Stuff and folds them into Crunchyroll, getting rid of the old Right Stuff website and moving all the products onto the Crunchyroll Store. And throughout the past 6 years following COVID and the boom in anime interest because of COVID, and this kind of brings us all back today, as with Crunchyroll's general control over the anime industry and keeping good businesses with their partners, even though they have broken promises, and like with their partner Toho with the release of Dandadan and not promoting it because of internal company politics. And I don't mean like the politics of the show, no, because of the politics and policies within the company itself and how comfortable they felt of a title that is not exclusive to their platform. This all brings us back as with this, that's where this is coming from. This goes more and more into depth at everything that is going on. Although I'm not surprised that this is happening as a company. At least for me, in my experience, I have personally seen as for particular anime titles, but I've noticed with the Crunchyroll Store, as items have been delisted and or removed from the platform, not for anything, no other reason, then I'm assuming this whole company policy that they are now aggressively enforcing. As it's reported, the company policy was discovered as a number of Discotek Media's back catalog of titles that were in stock were just delisted for no reason. And then individuals had to make Reddit threads listing every single title that was removed from the platform. This was not just Discotek, this was also other items that were on the Crunchyroll Store. It makes my blood boil. And I'm not trying to copy anyone else. Like, it upsets me so much because as someone who's in the outside looking in and looking and understanding at what Crunchyroll is trying to do with what they're trying to attempt to do with the industry and trying to capture that, so to speak, otaku, like 360 lifestyle for an otaku, like Like, they want to be that platform for that particular audience. But as a result, that they want to reach a broad audience, and they're so focused on profit margins and the prestige of certain titles versus smaller publishers, and where they do have an incentive to be promoting more highly profitable IPs that most likely Crunchyroll has the license to be. They can be merchandising, licensing out, and or having products onto their store pages. They also have, got that whole manga thing that they're trying to eat Viz Media's lunch and or Manga Plus's lunch in capturing anime fans and consumers. But I don't, is that I know why they're doing it at the end of the day, and it's not anything else other than for just sheer greedy profit and trying to grow the platform itself and reach that whatever audience they think is going to be that audience to be spending all that they can on these products. From an article that I have reported on before, if you've followed my coverage and story with everything that's been going on in the company on my platform, as the excerpt goes, it's quite literally like, executives just hope merchandising would help retain subscribers, boost revenue. Current and former employees said viewers could binge on manga comic books between anime seasons instead of pausing their monthly fee or purchase collectible figures of their favorite characters. After taking over the anime merchandising retailer Right Stuff for undisclosed sum in 2022, Crunchyroll's online store was poised to offer manga. The business has since shrunk, according to 3 former employees. Among the reasons, Sony asked Crunchyroll to pull the racier adult manga toys and that form about 5% of Right Stuff revenue. That 5% stuff would be stuff that Right Stuff would have. They would then make their own adult label for those products, and since then, I do not think we will hear anything about that side of what was formerly Right Stuff. And this is not a story that I want to be talking about. It's, at least for me personally, someone who's been covering this and who's been following it and genuine fan of the industry and wants to see it prosper. This is not the way to do it. This is not the way to do it. I'm a little afraid with the stuff that Netflix is attempting to do in the mix of Netflix's acquisition of Warner Brothers and the partnership with Studio Mappa. Netflix has been a great partner within the industry since the mid-2010s with their great investment within the industry. I will give them that. But I do not like this cycle or system that's going on here that incentivizes for these companies to do this. The reality is, with these monopolies, is as great and as wonderful, right, for the consumer, right? The idea of a one-stop shop, for the consumer. And let's say for the industry itself, for that matter. Sounds all great on paper. Because, you don't really need to go anywhere else. You go seek out your anime figures, your manga, your videos, or watch your shows, or think that you're directly supporting the industry, that money that's being cycled through, right? On paper, that sounds great and wonderful, and in a bit of a wonderful idea, right? But in practice, they're not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. Crunchyroll themselves do not care for the industry. And I'm talking about the company themselves. I'm not talking about the people who work inside. Because I do believe that there's good people who work within Crunchyroll who have their best interest and who have no power, who are outside of the spheres of influence that would have power to change policy here. But if they do, And if they're seeing this, if they're seeing at least public reaction to what's going on, and I do believe that there should be more public outcry, more reaction at what's going on here, as we've seen what's happened with the company before with previous policies that it's done before, Crunchyroll themselves, that it's up to the consumer to decide what's going on here. Because, as we're already seeing here, they're affecting the livelihoods and the relationships that they have with their partners, as previously shown in now canceling back orders of rights of customers that they were believed that they were, as a company, Crunchyroll was going to honor those orders, but they never did. They choose to not promote in shows that doesn't align with their company. As a result, that show is something that is on every other platform, and they'll be promoted by everyone else but themselves. Why would they have the incentive to be promoting it, right? Because if you care about the industry here, and I'm not just talking about the folks who work within the English space, but those within Japan, because it's a big system of the anime industry that as it exists here, where the money that you put in is what they see back there, and they then decide what shows to make and what shows to promote, and what studios these committees choose to go and contract. These studios that have the wages that they do, and they're not even wages. A lot of animators get paid per drawing, depending on their positions. They use freelance animators to go and come in and make cuts on these shows that make the beautiful cuts that you and I enjoy. But, all this goes into the committee. The committee also works with toy manufacturers or merchandisers, making merch of toys and confections and apparel and what else that they'll sell to you, where all those profits go back to those committee members. And Crunchyroll is in the room with them. They're in the room to get the licenses to these shows for international distribution, and for the larger titles, get the rights to then go merchandising it and making their own profits with it. And yeah, they'll go back to the production committee, but largely they're for Crunchyroll with the partners that they license with. And at the end of the it's all under the umbrella of Sony. And Sony has their own investments in these shows with the promotion of their music. We've seen as Crunchyroll as a platform itself has added music videos of their star artist and or favorite shows that you like, and where you get recommended of the music video of that opening on that platform that you're supposed to be watching anime shows on. As consumers, you guys need to wake up at what's going on here. And I'm not saying go out of your way to go, onto a certain site to not support. Because that doesn't support the industry. That doesn't help out. It helps out because they get to see, what properties are popular or whatever. That those in the future they're gonna go and license anyways. We know, as it's been reported before, that those shows that you go out of the way to go onto, let's say, certain other platforms to go and watch, so to speak, maybe not spending the cash on it. Those are just stuff that are stolen from official platforms that there's people who put the work in to make that work and make their cash, and who, guess what, Crunchyroll as a company do not pay those subtitlers the same rates that they used to back in the day, as compared to the rates between Crunchyroll and Funimation. And they still do subtitles. They put it onto those other platforms and get to watch your shows for free. Yeah, but you're not supporting the industry. You go onto your figure collecting site, and yeah, you go and support the industry that way, if that makes you feel comfortable. Or go out of the way to support the manga. Support the manga that you buy from Viz Media. You know, that goes directly to Shueisha and Shogakukan or whomever, because they're the parent. You know, those are the parent companies of Viz Media. If you go out of the way to go buy the manga, you know, and or Kadokawa or whomever else that are the official publishers. But you have to make those consumer decisions. I do not think it's even worth it for you to be supporting shows and or watching shows that other companies have made business dealings with Crunchyroll. And I'm not talking about like publishers, like the shows themselves. I'm talking about people who go out of the way to go partner with Crunchyroll to get their titles. Because I do not think we should be supporting that company. That company and Sony, for that matter. With everything else with Sony, right? If you care for the anime industry, do not support Crunchyroll. Regardless, like don't even pay attention. That's why I'm so emotional in this current moment. If I were to make a plea, and guess what? You know what? Before I do this, I want to tell you there's other ways that you can go out of your way to support the industry. MangaAlerts has done a great thing, but you know, first up, you know, I do want to give a shout out to Media OCD and what they're attempting to do, because they were one of the individuals that were being affected here. Is that with Media OCD and in partnership with Discotek, they're going to be doing this deep dives thing where they're going to be getting 20 to 30 titles from Discotek's collection, and especially the ones that have been delisted on Crunchyroll. And if you really care about retro anime and or some more recent ones, because Discotek Media does have some more recent material for that matter, go support them at Media City. They're still a smaller storefront where they're picking up titles. Go support them and everything that they do. I greatly appreciate. But then also these sites that MangaAlerts has put up onto their page that they list. I'm just stop supporting them, for that matter. Like, but here's my plea. Here's my plea to the industry. As great and as nice it is, because I will give something to Crunchyroll here. I'm not saying this stuff because like I don't care. Like, I care deeply about what's going on here. And I think it's wonderful that this is a possibility for certain shows, that the amount of money that Crunchyroll gives into the industry to license certain properties out is enough to fund the whole project of a series being produced and then released within Japan. At least the initial money invested, like the money on top allows them to, you know, get up at least repay whatever they've invested in said shows. If I'm gonna be conservative, what I mean. But I'm not gonna lie. I do think that there's a need for another disruptor within the industry. I do not think it's gonna be High Dive. My plea here is that there needs to be another disruptor. I don't know how that's going to be. What I would like, honestly, is, I mean, to put it simply, is that anime producers and or content distributors choose to put their platforms and follow the model that has been found with the success of Dandadan and Witch Watch for an extent, where these shows are not platform exclusives. They're on a bunch of other different platforms, and they're released simulcast, and people are able to enjoy and watch them. I would like, if wanted to go the extra mile, I would like it so that there's a free option for these shows, kind of like Crunchyroll back in the day, and where, you know, like a week or something, like eventually episodes are freely available, at least for maybe for a limited time, as it is with the company Rimrow, for an example, that is releasing titles on YouTube, for that matter, that you should go support if you want to watch currently and airing simulcast shows. To a certain extent, support them to a certain extent, to be more exact. But you know, piracy is not going to be what's going to be solving it. And within Japan, Japanese companies have incentive to be cracking down on these platforms. And I don't say that to discourage people from using them, but just be conscious about it. I do think it would be beneficial and maybe a little more simple-minded, but like, I don't know. Want to directly support the industry, maybe just make it a platform to where you can buy imports, but then also like local anime products from local distributors, right? Where you can see the titles that are being popular in Japan. You can go out of your way to buy and import those from the site, right? In their figurines or whatnot, which people normally do with these platforms that focus on importing. That's what they generally import, right? But they can go out of the way to buy the local Bandai of America release of an SH Figure Arts or whatever, you know? And or a disc from Sentai Filmworks or Discotek Media, for that matter, you know? But like, be a platform that exists like that. Like, if you're a big fan of Dandadan or Chainsaw Man, right? I do think if you really care for those shows and properties, is if you're able to, you know, go directly support the release of the Japanese release of that title. Like, go out of your way to support it and buy it. And also support the local one if you want to go to that extra extent. Because that shows these companies, hey, you care for these products, you care for these properties, and you're willing to foot the bill to produce more of it, right? And the same thing for you know, toys and whatnot, you know? And it doesn't have to be just one company that's doing it. But it can at least be like a collective, in the same way how within Japan, and this is what kind of what Sony's doing, but the issue with Sony is that they want to be the gatekeepers, right? It cannot be it's not a mutually beneficial relationship. But, you know, these companies kind of come together. They kind of more or less coalesce. And they're like, hey, we care for these properties, we care for these shows, we care for the industry, you know, profits for the general industry itself and ourselves, right? Not just one company being the one, but everyone else. And so at least continue the little cycle that exists within the industry, that allows more shows to be produced, more manga to be produced, more figurines, you know, the perpetual cycle here. And you know, people advocating and fighting for better conditions for the people who work within the industry. I think you know, we saw what happened with Mob Psycho and the attempts of the voice actors for the third season and trying to get a union contract with formerly Funimation but Crunchyroll, as they work on producing the show. And but yeah, and the partnerships that were burnt down, for no other reason than business dealings that's happened, and or subtitlers rates being cut. Like, don't just stop supporting this big company. And if you care for the industry and you want to support it, go out of your way to go support it. And I don't even I've been in your guys' shoes for the folks who say, "Oh, I can't support it. I don't have the there." You can, right now. You can. I think right now it's January. I think Disney Plus still has the deal for like $5 a month for a whole year. You can get Disney Plus and Hulu together if you live within North America, United States for that matter. You can watch currently airing shows on that platform, or if you have a Netflix subscription or whatever else. Or if you don't have it, there's freely available anime titles, especially the ones that are airing right now on YouTube itself. Go support its anime. I've said this before. And if you guys watched until like this point, I'm so sorry for all your time. Like, I get it. I will be done here soon enough. But if you want resources, please let me know if you need resources. I'm more willing to list them down. But I've said enough. I'm kind of losing steam here. I hope you guys have had a good new year, and everything. And I wish you all the best. If you're able to, and you have the time, go check out likely the content that is on screen. That will likely link you to every single material that I've covered with Crunchyroll and or the anime industry itself that's happened throughout the past couple years, and or a video that's being recommended. But I've said enough. This has been Osoweeb. Keep reading, keep watching, and keep learning about anime manga. And I'll be signing out. Peace.